Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. I'm one of your announcers today. In the background, SirAshtown, and we are here watching all of Kindle, aka Noimnot matches from the Charlie Collectible show's LORCANA 10K that happened in Stone Mountain, Georgia, December 14th and the 15th. He was our community pro for the 20 Lore Pro community, as chosen by the Discord community. We had a poll, everyone voted, he won. And so we're going to get to watch all of his matches from beginning to end, rounds 1 until he makes it into the top 4 against DeCandio, and we'll get to see his journey all along the way. And joining me here today to highlight, to talk about, to join in on everything that we're talking about today is Katie and Clara. How are y'all doing today?
I am doing
fantastic.
We both waited. We both were like, okay, who's going to go first? And then we both timed it. But I'm doing good. Clara, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Well, could y'all tell us just a little bit about yourselves before we jump in today's match and we start talking about Noimnot? Because I'm really excited to have y'all here and to get your insight into today's tournament.
Yeah, so you might know me from the Lorekeeper's in, but I do YouTube content and I like to play. I have middling results, but I do like to play. But I also love commentating and making content with pro players and kind of seeing the work they do. So Kendall's somebody that I have been following. I had his guide. He got me an Ursula, so that's great. But yeah, so I love watching him play. So what about you, Clara?
Hello, I am Clara, better known as the Questingqueentcg. This may be known for you with the DLC Top 16 win, and I have been starting a streaming with Twitch. Doing every Tuesday and Thursday evening normally, just exploring deck decks like a mad scientist, and really experimenting with the game. And I want to do that more and more in the future with opportunities like this. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, Claire's being humble. She's really good. So she's really good at seeing through the meta and finding all the fun things out there. So I love watching the decks that you come up with. I'm very excited for Continentals coming up and seeing what you have there.
Both of these LORCANA players are great. Both of them, Katie included.
Oh, well, I don't think you. Wow. Okay, I'll nestle up and be like, yes, us contemporaries, us peers. I do have an Ursula and a Stitch.
There you go. I don't even have that.
But we are watching some other, accoladed player with Kendall. You know him, you love him. If you're watching this, obviously you're a Kendall fan. Who I bet you can guess. You can see on the board. He's playing Ruby Amethyst, and because that's his thing. He loves it. He's kind of the guy. If you think about it, there's a few decks out there where you think about and you just associate with the player, and he's one of the few players that's like, no, I'm sticking with this deck, and he does it to great success, as we can see today. But yeah, he is playing like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Definitely, we have seen the round 1. Now we are in round 2. So a great success in there, and we want to see how he fares against a Emerald Amethyst.
Yes, an Emerald Amethyst is, I lovingly call this a little stinker deck because it's always doing little stinker stuff. And I feel like it's one of those decks where we've got, you know it, you love it, the burn kind of effect that we talked about in our last match, which is lore gain, basically, just getting lore. Now, he also played a card that's enchanted that Kendall asked to see. Can either of you see what that card is? Because I'm very interested to know what Kendall's like. Show me that. What is that?
I think it's the Sorcerer's
Staff.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. The Maleficent Staff. Interesting. So that's one of the things I find so interesting about Emerald Amethyst in general is there's so many ways you can take it to make it your own. as we've already seen with the turn 2 Maleficent Staff.
So Maleficent Staff effect is whenever your opponent bounces one of their character, either it is one of their effects or one of your effects, you gain 1 lore. So you are incentivized to bounce your opponent's characters, but you also get a payoff whenever they do themselves. It's really great in that matchup against Ruby Amethyst.
We've seen this with a couple different cards. I mean, comes to mind Sleepy's Flute, the lore book. That's not what it's called, but Sorcerer's Book, where basically it's nice to have an item out there as kind of like, plan A doesn't work. At least I'm getting some passive income here from this item. And it sounds like Maleficent's Staff is one where it's not going to win you the game, but it might incrementally get you that advantage. Just because item removal has become a little less of a hot card to see in decks. So sometimes you do get that item out there and then it just kind of gets you that passive benefit.
Definitely. And it might pay off more than just once or twice in that matchup. Because it kind of tells your opponent, well, yes, you're getting the benefit of something when you bounce characters, but every time you do so, there's an added cost that you make me win a little further. And that can be a dangerous game to play.
Yeah, it definitely gives your opponent something where they're like, okay, you're suddenly having to think a little bit differently about lines of play that you maybe don't give a second thought to. Now, both of them are playing bounce decks.
That is true. And also with Amethyst being really strong right now, like I don't think there's a deck that is like subpar that is playing Amethyst right now. And
it is, yeah.
Have some key cards like Genie.
So now it's interesting because so Sam Yolo, any Emerald Amethyst deck I think usually wants to go pretty wide pretty fast. We don't see that because of etc. But he hasn't been able to completely flit out the board. I normally want to make sure that I'm getting as much lore in as early as possible because I know I'm going to get to a point where the table's script's going to flip. There is some control that Emerald Amethyst can do these days. Primarily things like Lyle, Tiberius Rook can kind of add some tempo there. But ultimately, I try to get as much lore as early as possible. And in this case, we see Kendall pulling away pretty quickly, which is probably not what Sam is hoping to see.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Emerald is the jack of all trades color of LORCANA. It allows you to do a little bit of all of the things that you want to do.
Especially what he just saw there. He said, I will take that, be prepared, thank you very much. So that's a good point, as you make the point that...
Yeah, like Ursula is a fine example of that. Is like, yeah, it's a tool for targeted discard, but it only targets song cards. As of the bare necessities, that is a similar effect for the same cost, targets any non-character. So this is kind of my point there. Anything that green does, probably another color does it better.
Yeah. But then green gets to say, but I do a little bit of everything, I'm drawing cards, I'm doing stuff. So I think, to your point, the other cards can do those things a little bit stronger, but I think, to your first point, it is a very versatile color in the sense that you can kind of flex based on what you're trying to get your opponent to either prevent them from doing or egging them on to doing. I think a cool card that I'm hoping we get to see played is the Go-Go Tamago, which is kind of a fun way where you get almost an amethyst effect on an emerald card, where you get to play her in and get some lore just for damage on your opposing character. So emerald, it's funny. It does kind of mimic the other colors just in different ways.
That's so true. And Go-Go Tamago kind of changes the game in terms of challenges. You don't want to have like one-sided wins so much anymore when it means that your remaining character has like 3 or 4 damage. It means probably giving your opponent 3 or 4 lore.
Now is feeling pretty good. He's got a nice board state. One of the most painful things about running Emerald Amethyst is you do have very limited board wiping opportunities. It can kind of feel a little bit overwhelming at times like this when if their board is bigger than yours, you really are thinking of, okay, well, how big are their bodies? Can I bounce? What can I do to slowly whittle down their board? It can be an uncomfortable position to be in.
I'm kind of confused about what just happened. What is the character that challenged the Elsa?
It looks like he used the I'm on your hand. He can't hear me. No, Crab's still there. I think it was. Did he rush in? Oh, go. Interesting. But he is going to rush in the Madame Medusa to pump up the. Or sorry, he's going to put in the Crab to pump up the Fox to take out that Madame Medusa.
Yeah, that is the at this point of the game, like we said often, but Ruby Amethyst sitting at 13-14 lore with the goat into play, and then the Sisu. That is
heartbreaking.
That is backbreaking. Yes.
Yeah, and it's hard because we both know that, I mean, Kendall's feeling good. He knows he knows there's not a lot of removal. And by not a lot, I mean almost none on Amethyst and Ruby's side. There's some tricks they can play, and that's, Amethyst Emerald has some tricks to do things that are similar to removal, but there's not a lot of straightforward removal where you can get rid of things just easily. You can bounce, you can move damage, but you're not necessarily going to be able to do your favorite kind of removal where it's just, hey, can you get rid of that, please?
And a sad Ursula played.
Yes. Sad Ursula say, can you just show me that card? Is it a song? No. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, and we know Kendall is able to hear Quest Up, going to 19, putting pressure on, just saying, what are you going to do about this wide board state? And as we discussed, there's not a lot you can do against a wide board state like this.
Honestly, just with the goat in play, it is over.
It's over. Yes, yeah. I mean, how do you get rid of that goat? I guess
without triggering.
Yes.
So getting rid of the goat is not the issue. It's like the lore gain that is triggered off of it. Like one day there's already a card in Emerald that prevents easy lore gain, and this is the Peter Pan in Emerald, the new one. So essentially, when the Peter Pan enters play exerted, and if Peter Pan is exerted, and it has not been challenged yet, in the turn, your opponent cannot gain passive lore. So really efficient for goats, like any location, Go-Go Tamago, preventing the lore gain. But it's a 7 ink card. It's not well in the meta right now. That is like more in the aggro mid-range.
Got it. You're talking about Peter Pan Neverland Prankster. I haven't even seen that card, but you're right. That is a card where it's there saying, I'm going to slow you down a little bit here. Stopping the lore gain. So yeah, it's interesting as we see more decks that are focused on lore gain. Like you mentioned before, the people call it burn deck, lore galore, if you will. He's saying, no, I'm putting the brakes on that. A 7 cost inkable for 4/6 that essentially makes it where you have to deal with him before you can get back to your shenanigans.
Definitely. But unless there are better ways to deal with all the goat shenanigans, bounce, like passive advantage generation, bounce will still be an archetype that will be really popular.
I, for one, am an eternal lover of bounce. It is so fun. I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like if you're lucky and you learn to play it in chapter 2 and you have it in your DNA, it's like, oh, I know the language of bounce. And so both these decks very well know the language of bounce and the mischief that you can play off with it.
Yeah, bounce is still like a dangerous game. Because in the first turns there's a concept that is called tempo. So how will you have like board presence and be able to generate advantage? And bounce kind of gives you higher statted characters, but at the cost of returning a character back in your hand, like losing tempo a little bit. If you don't play your cards right with bounce, you might hurt your gameplay more than getting ahead.
And it's such a good point because I remember the first time I played a deck with Snake, I was like, oh, it's a great thing to get something back and protect it. But now I'm like, no, a Snake is an endgame card. I'm not doing anything until I need Snake to get back something valuable. So it's a good point where it takes something like a 2-drop that you would think you'd play on turn 2 and be like, well, it's probably not your best turn 2 move because, for example, if you're playing against a ramp deck and you can keep a Chernabog, a Diablo out there for 2 turns, that's free lore, and it can be very beneficial, and you don't want that card off the battle or off the play field.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it's a really great card against other aggro mid-rangey deck where, especially in Steel, we have the new Calhoun that is like a 3/2, or the Smee, or any cards like this. You might want to have that Mana Mim Snake to just say, okay, I did get my 1 or 2 lore, but now I have a 3/3 that can compete with what you have in board, and I can then play my other stuff. So it kind of depends of what the board presence is.
Yeah, it's definitely something you have to know. I told my dad that first step, you got to learn the game. Second step, you know your deck. And then the third step is you have to know every other deck in the entire game. And so Snake is one of those cards where you need to know everyone else's deck because it's really going to depend on the best way to use her.
That's for sure. You don't want Snake against aggro.
Yeah. Now we are seeing Sam in the happy place of going first with a aggressive kind of deck. I won't say, I mean, Emerald Amethyst used to be pretty much aggro all the time, but I think it's now more mid-range and sometimes even slants control with some of the things it's able to do. But going first is definitely going to be great for him, especially with something like a Curse Merfolk to hopefully either put the pressure on for your opponent to discard a card or just get that 2 lore early on.
And having that Banzai turn 2 really puts more pressure. So being like there's a concept that you have the person that is applying the pressure, and you have the one in defense mode. So with aggro decks, you want to be in the pressure mode more than in defense mode.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I used it less eloquently. I'm like, I want to run and I want you to chase me. But I think like you said, it's more better. The pressure versus because I mean, it's kind of right now. Sam is saying, I'm going to do stuff. Do you want to stop me or do you want to let me keep going? Now we know eventually we get to the point where the tables kind of flip, where he runs out of things that are as stressful for Kendall, and Kendall gets more stressful items, more pressure. But early on, Bonsai gives that, you have something that can swing for 3, where like you mentioned right before, a Snake is perfect for this time because now you're like, okay, I can make a favorable trade here. A Snake for 3 would be really quite nice to take rid of that Bonsai.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're telling your opponent, yes, you can quest, you'll be gaining 2, but I will manage you every step of the way. So you will get that build that board presence that you so need.
Now, unfortunately, Brawl is not a song. That always feels bad, but at least he gets to see what's in the hand. I think it's very interesting that, ideally on this turn, you'd be looking for something like Friends on the Other Side to maybe choke out some card draw. Even a Be Prepared is always nice to take, which I think he just top decked a Be Prepared, possibly.
He just top decked that.
He said, "Oh, wait,
Luck.
That's another reason where Ursula's a 2-drop where I almost hate playing her on turn 2 because I'm like, I want to play it on turn 6. I'll wait because there's so many things I fear more later in the game against Ruby Amethyst.
Definitely. The Be Prepared against any aggressive deck is like doom. You want to remove it at the key point.
So we know that Be Prepared's on a time clock, but we also know we're only on turn 3 here. So, I mean, we're still very far away from it. And sometimes it can hurt to have that because it's not inkable and you can't play it. So it just kind of sits there. So it's good to have it because you feel like, oh, but you also know another Ursula could come at any time and it's not going to do you any good for 4 more turns.
That's for sure. So right now, Kendall only has 3 cards in hand, including a Be Prepared. So we don't see the other cards so well, but potentially 2 other inkables. Drawing uninkables at this point could really hurt the game plans. But having a Chernobog Follower and a Magic Broom in play allows you for eventual card draw, so not that bad, I would say.
Yeah, he's got that insurance plan, which is why I think the opening curve of having even a Diablo, which I don't think Kendall chose to run on this tournament, but having those cards where it's like, okay, I'm going to get something probably. Those cards can help as a backup plan where it's like, this isn't great, but at least I'm getting some cards probably. Especially if you are in a situation where you have 3 cards and one of them's an uninkable song.
Yeah,
we do know that Kendall... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I've seen hands on the shared on the internet of people having like 3 Merlin Rabbit, a Be Prepared, Madame Medusa in hand, stuff like that, with 3 inks. Be like, yeah.
Yeah, your opponent says, "Are you crying?" You're like, "No, I'm not crying." Oh, and you see him, he's so given up on that Be Prepared that he says, "I'll sacrifice my Be Prepared to just get rid of that Curse Merfolk," because honestly, that Curse Merfolk's going to keep questing for 2 if he doesn't do something about it. So in this case, he's going to discard that Be Prepared to get rid of the Curse Merfolk, play a goat, and then sacrifice his broom to draw another card to hopefully keep crawling towards some inkable playable cards, which he might have another Be Prepared in his hand. He's doing some fancy handwork there.
You know something is up when you see your opponent doing that, which is...
I know, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I started doing that. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I've been told by my friends to start doing that as to blur the information that is given.
I'm like, wow, are people really that able to pay attention to that many things at once? And I guess they are, because I'm like, wow, the only thing I'm paying attention to is like, wow, you can move your card so fast. Now, we did see Sam play a card that I find very fun in this meta, and that's Gazelle. And oftentimes for the first few sets, we'd have cards where it's like, you get evasive for now. But Gazelle's been a cool card, especially in a Genie meta, where Gazelle will allow you to have evasive until the start of your next turn. So he did ink it, but I just wanted to kind of note that I think that's a very cool tech card if you are someone that's afraid of a Genie mirror, where Gazelle can come in and bless you with the gift of evasiveness to the start of your next turn to hopefully maybe do something about that Genie.
Like, Gazelle really shines in bounce deck style. Like Emerald Amethyst with you can bounce the Gazelle, like a rush evasive Madame Fox is really
Beautiful.
strong.
Very beautiful. It's a very beautiful thing. So yeah, and it's a card that I didn't quite get at first, and then I'm like, wait a minute, that can really mess you up, especially right now when people are saying, what do we do about these evasive cards? That is one answer. Now, Kendall is finding a way to slowly control Sam's board, which is good, knowing that he's been kind of struggling to do a lot over there. And we are getting to the point where he is about to be at 6 ink, I think. I don't know if he's inked this turn.
Yeah, he's about to have 6 ink.
And it looks like Sam has 1 card in hand, which is not a fun place to be in.
No, 1 card is really like on the brink of despair, so to say. With 6 ink, in that case, I would be hoping for another ink and a Clarabelle in hand to just be like, okay, I can draw back. Drawing back is really important, and the first player to be able to do so consistently will gain the advantage.
Now, he did kind of psych me out there where he exerted all his ink to play Bonsai. And I'm like, I don't really understand what happened there, but he did kind of over ink there for a 2-cost card. But we do see in his hand a big lady here that is fun to play. It looks like he has an Ursula, but he's going to ink her, so sorry. But Clarabelle is the better call in this point. If Clarabelle can survive this turn, or rather, it doesn't even matter. She still gets those 2 cards, just being here.
Yeah, at the end of each of his turns, Sam will be able to draw up to his opponent's number of cards.
So that's good. That kind of puts some gas back in Sam's tank, because he knows that Kendall is behind 10. Kendall's singing friends on the other side, so that shows me that Kendall's still kind of hoping to find some answers. And any card that he draws feels good for Sam, assuming that Clarabelle survives this turn.
Yeah, that's for sure. And
I doomed her.
Be prepared.
I doomed the poor Clarabelle. That's okay. Sam got 2 cards out of the deal, and he had no cards, so it's not the best scenario, but it is something.
Yeah, we have a go-go in hand, and we were able to draw a genie, so that is a good start. We want to be able to apply pressure, still gain that couple of lures back.
So yeah, things are cooking.
So
he got a card. Yeah. Now is Kendall gonna do? Okay, I thought he was about to do another Be Prepared. I'm like, you can't do that legally. 2 Be Prepared, but no, he does the second worst thing, which is a Madame Medusa.
Well, I've seen plays where Be Prepared 3 turns in a row. Be like, okay, yeah. Oh, yes.
Thank you. You're like, how many do you have in your deck? And they're like 8. In this case, he's gonna quest with that White Rose. Now we know he has a go-go, but it looks like he's kind of working around that, because I don't know White Rose. How much does she hit for? White Rose.
It's a 3/3 quest for 1.
So that's interesting. I wonder. I guess because Madame Medusa wasn't exerted, so she can't use that line of play yet. So just setting up, maybe egging him on and being like, "Come on, you can exert her."
But it's really key to be able to recur back the White Rose, reuse it, but it can be dealt with a simple Madame Medusa.
Yes. Which is such a bummer. And I played Go-Go Tamago in my deck the other day, and it does feel frustrating because you're waiting for that perfect math to work out, or you're like, I need the math to work out, or Go-Go matters. And it's not always easy, as we see, because you have to have your opponent with an exerted character, and you have to have a character that deals enough damage where they don't banish that character. So it's not easy for Go-Go to work, because you have to really hope that they play into your plan, which doesn't happen, especially when you want it to, I find. Now he's playing a Kit and just saying, I need a body, because Kit cannot bounce either of those.
Yeah, well, you want to have that. because at 16 lore, being able to gain more than 1 lore per turn is crucial at this point.
Exactly. Any incremental win or any incremental gain makes Sam feel good, especially knowing that there's so many cards that can, push you over a goat or another white rose. In this case, it's a go-go with nowhere to go. Which,
but it will go somewhere.
That's true. She could go what? And I think he might have 2 in hand. I think, possibly. Yep. And if that case, then that is good, because then maybe it kind of sets up for a 2 lore next turn, which is enough. 3 is all he needs at this point.
So a really good line of play is to just challenge a Kit Cloud Kicker in the Medusa and generate that easy 2 lore with the go-go. We can't.
I know. See, that's the thing with the go-go Heartbreak, is you want to set it up. Now, he did quest with the snake, which, if he's gonna... But we know that, it's still not over. There's still, the dream is still alive. As long as something's exerted and it won't be banished upon a challenge, go-go can still get some value. Now, that being said, I think Kit hits for 1, right?
Kit hits for 2.
So he can't have it both. He can't both quest with... Oh, interesting. So we see the staff again.
Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting there, because you have 2 choices. Either you challenge the Madame Mim with the kit, and you play go-go afterwards, or you just quest. And that is really interesting, because you're forcing your opponent to respond to it.
Yeah, and you're kind of hoping that they get some damage in the meantime, I'm assuming, because you got the lore from him questing, and then maybe you'll lean into that kit and then build up. Did he fall right into the trap?
But the trap was there anyway. Either he was not challenging, and go-go would have been there the next turn.
Yeah. So that go-go is painful, because you're waiting and waiting and waiting for that perfect time, and he got there and it closed the game. So you can see go-go can end the game, but you definitely have to hope that everything sets up perfectly for it. But that gives us a game 3.
Definitely some work.
Yeah. And I know how it feels now, because I played it a couple times, and I'm like, please let me use go-go. I want to. And I want it to be good, because I don't want it to be just 1 lore. I want it to be 2 or more. But so many characters are something where I'm like, but I don't want to banish it, because then I can't use my cool go-go. It can be stressful.
Yeah, and definitely people at the beginning of the set were like, go-go is like easy lore gain. I can do really interesting things. But people really want to trade cleanly most of the time, or be able to not leave damage on the board so much. People are scared of that.
And it makes sense. We talked about like the pain of a Bell Accomplished Mystic, because Bell Accomplished Mystic could help out with the go-go, but then you need so much ink at that point, because go-go needs to be 4, 2 to play and 2 for the effect, and Bell is 5. So it's really hard to pull off some of the go-go shenanigans that I think people were optimistic would be very easy once the card was announced.
And at the same time, people were incentivized to always do clean challenges to a banish point because of Rapunzel since chapter 1.
She trained us.
Want to leave. Yeah, she trained us really well, too well.
Yes, I'm like, I'm not going to let you draw a card. I won't do it. I simply won't. So yeah, we've been trained from chapter 1 to say, if you leave damage, you're possibly helping your opponent, and it holds true to this day with go-go. Yeah. Now Kendall will be on the play. Oh, sorry, go. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So yeah, Kendall in the play. It's really the best thing for him there, because you'd be able to respond better to anything Sam has to offer in play.
Yeah, Kindle, I mean, going first feels better at this point because, you don't have to chase the merfolk trail at this point, which is always my most painful start is if they do turn 1 merfolk, turn 2 more merfolk. So things like that can be very frustrating, and going first at least gives him that breathing room of saying, well, maybe I can curve some of the things that a Amethyst Emerald deck can do that can be very painful to catch up with. We see him do the dreaded misshuffle where some of his cards are right side up and some are upside down, and you're like, how did I do that? And then you're that's personally has happened to me, and it's very hard to come back from mentally.
It throws me off. I don't know. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I really like to have all my cards aligned in the same direction.
They simply must. It's not optional, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100% agree with you.
We do see a Cursed Merfolk and a Magic Broom, which the Magic Broom, is there to be able to draw a card, which might help soften the blow of challenging into that Merfolk later.
Yeah, but right now, you really want to leave the Magic Broom be, at least for now. Okay, next turn might be a good moment to pop it off.
So, goodbye, Cursed Merfolk. We hardly knew ye.
Sadly so.
And in a classic line of play where we got the Flynn into a Sisu Emboldened Warrior.
Yeah, with against the more aggressive deck, the Sisu won't be like having a huge strength for too long.
That's true. I mean, now it incentivizes Sam to want to empty out his hand as best as possible.
Okay, one interesting card in Sam's hand right now is the Kit Cloud Picker. And that's what he plays.
Yes.
Because you can get rid of the Flynn Rider, and the setup for the Sisu Flynn just falls off.
Yeah, that is interesting, where Flynn without a Sisu, or Sisu without a Flynn is still good. Still plus for 2 and is a big body, but unfortunately it doesn't get you that free 3 lore at the start of the turn. And as we can see, he goes ahead and inks that Flynn because it just becomes less appealing as the game goes on to have that Flynn out there because of all the threats that are going to be coming down the line. And the emptying of the hand as well.
Like, there's so many ways that a 2/2 can be dealt with that makes me say it is less enticing to have it further down the game. With all the cards with Elsa, Kit Cloud Kicker, the Big Ursula, they all have effects when they do something on a character with low strength and willpower. So in terms of play right now, we have Sam that is getting a little bit ahead with the board presence that is kind of fair, not backbreaking, but good.
Yeah, Sam is stabilizing, but it is definitely, as we creep up, We see Kendall get more lore. And we see Sam's hand empty a little bit more. It's stressful. I mean, I just know in the seat of an Emerald Amethyst player, you just hope that you can get out of Clarabelle, something like that, where you can keep alive and move against the board state as it starts to shift in Kendall's favor.
So it is interesting right now because there is some pause thinking here, and I think it is crucial as of what are the next steps.
Exactly. What are you afraid of? What is the right move to do to set you up for least amount of shenanigans possible on Sam's side?
Well, in the lapse of one turn, Kendall was able to just get back the advantage of the board. It's one of the things with Emerald Amethyst. Yes, it is aggressive. Yes, it is kind of flimsy, versatile. Like I would imagine some kind of goo that is able to get around stuff, but it is not strong on board. You can impact it better than it can impact you.
We see him inking the fox and playing an Ursula saying, okay, what do you got? And the answer is nothing takeable. I look like a goat and not a song. So, the worst Ursula. Now, it's not the worst thing here for Sam because Sam does have, it looks like, the shift target Ursula in his hand. So, not the end of the world. In quest for 3 and in theory next turn.
That is really interesting. Like the small Ursula is there, but I didn't see any sign of the Clarabelle 3 cost in Sam's deck. So one of the things when you're playing Emerald with the Clarabelle is you find yourself kind of running out of gas easily. Because you want to play your cards, you want to play those advantages that you have, but you kind of want to refuel at the same time. And being able to do so with Clarabelle, an easy shift on turn 5 can really help you out. So that, I mean, in terms of strategy, it's not only the gameplay right there, it's all the thoughts back in conception that can have an impact there.
Yeah, it is interesting. I have seen Clarabelle shift target really fall out of the favor, which, you know, shifting obviously has very obvious advantages. And I think the benefit of Clarabelle in the earlier meta was, well, you can also use her to possibly get rid of some items if you use her shift target. But it does seem like she's been trimmed out of many deck lists moving in to this current meta.
Yeah, that is really interesting because the card choice that we have right now is greatly influenced by the genie, and it is something that we've seen a lot of the decks that are entered into competition right now, they include the genie or answers against the genie.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. There was the Diablo meta, and now it's the Genie meta, where people have tunnel vision. They're like, "This is the card I'm afraid of." I'm like, "Well, there's some other cards." So it is interesting when you see the meta violently react to a few cards that are very problematic, but possibly not enough to change all deck lists for that one fear.
Yeah,
Now, we did see the shift of the Ursula and the quest for 3, but we also know that all it takes is one Tremaine, or in this case, just two bodies to trade into it, which is a very favorable trade on Kendall's part. It hurts, but knowing that's his only card on board, it hurts a little less.
Yeah, I would take that trade any other day. Seriously.
Exactly.
Because Ursula is not only like a 4/7 quest for 3. It's she has an effect when you quest with her to exert a character. And she makes it so that you can't sing. No other character than her can sing songs, but that is like not so relevant.
Currently, yeah, it has become less of a problem moving forward because, not many characters are singing these days.
That is quite sad. Like, we want to bring back the joy of singing. But
exactly. What is LORCANA? What is Disney without singing? But, you don't have to, I guess. So many cards have effects these days. Like, for example, someone that's like, oh, Pete is so important because it stops all actions. But we're at a point where almost every card in the meta is an action itself. So you can almost get around the pain of no actions by saying, well, all my cards do something. So I'm not too afraid of that.
Definitely. It's not only actions, songs, there are items, there are characters, locations, so you have a wide variety. But for sure, actions as they are known right now in the meta can be really impactful and circumvent certain play patterns. Like, let's take for instance challenging or drawing cards. Challenging and drawing cards, it's different.
Speaking of a card that's an action, we have the soft Be Prepared. The Be Prepared for you, but not for me. Sisu Empowered Sibling, where against Sam's board state was essentially a Be Prepared and wiped everything on his side.
Brutal.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the downsides of having so many cards that don't swing for a lot in an Emerald Amethyst deck is that Sisu becomes ultra scary because you just have so many cards that are going to be susceptible to her.
Yeah, and we can see that with Emerald Amethyst. I know in early set 6 that card that deck was like really talked about, and there were Amethyst still growing up to challenge the Emerald Amethyst, and then Ruby Amethyst does that with a wonderful win from Kendall.
Yeah, Kendall, I mean, that Sisu really said, I'm going to keep my board. Sorry about yours. And I think it's insult to injury is that, Be Prepared as a song, everybody suffers, but Sisu, she's there and she quests for 3 next turn. So it's the kind of pain where you got your board wiped and then you have your opponent say, well, I can also quest for 3. And she's a pretty big body, so it's painful all around.
That's so true. Well, that has been like a really lovely game. I can't wait to see what is next with Kendall.
Yes, I mean, Sam had some really great energy with his deck, and you could definitely see the versatility of Emerald Amethyst, but I mean, ultimately, Ruby has that upper hand with that removal, and so Kendall was able to use that removal to his advantage and say, I'm sorry, but I'm going to stop you. So it's very cool. And we can see Kendall's Crocs, which gives him, I believe, 50% of his powers.
Well, we're also looking forward to round 3. We have them all recorded again. Kendall, aka Noimnot, is our 20 Lore Pro community pro. And so he was chosen by you, the community, as the player that you wanted to watch every single game of during Charlie's Collectible Show's LORCANA 10K. And so we're presenting it here to you now. Excited to have you along, Katie, and you as well, Clara.
Absolutely. It's been so fun, and it's exciting to get to see Kendall the master of the ruby amethyst, and also these beautiful play mats.
Yeah, these wonderful mats were made by GFQ Underground. They were printed by them. If you're looking for a custom playmat printer, look no further for gfqunderground.com. There's also the artist of the playmat, Miguel Angel, who works with Diamond Ink Apparel. We'll have all of those links below, but Miguel is open. He does commissions, he does artwork. If you order playmats or t-shirts from him, he provides the artwork for free. So really great to have an artist that can come alongside you and make your dream a reality.
Well, I'm already looking him up right now, just behind the scenes. I'm like, well, I'm going to look that up.
Well, thank you all again so much for joining us here today. All of the links towards Kindle, towards Katie, towards Clara are all going to be in the link description below. We'll have those available to you. So if you'd like to learn more about who they are, follow them, see their content, look no further, look down below. You can find it there. And we will be here again in round 3 of Charlie's Collectible Show's LORCANA 10K.